Hi, this is Elizabeth with Wandering Soul Enterprises. Thank you for joining me today for our Cancer season yoga practice. So Cancer is the crab. It's associated with the moon and the moon card in tarot, as well as the chariot card. And Cancer is known for being nurturing, vulnerable, very protective, and also indirect because the crab moves from side to side. So we'll be focusing on those characteristics. And then some of the poses associated with Cancer are child's pose, half moon pose, pigeon, forward fold, and also, since it's associated with the moon, you can also do moon salutations. I think I have a separate video on moon salutations, so we're not going to focus on that today. We're going to do some of these other poses. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll begin in child's pose. So child's pose is a very protective pose, and it makes me think about like a hermit crab going into their shell. So anytime you're feeling like you need to be protected and go within, you can always practice child's pose. You have the toes touching, and you can have the knees touching or have the knees spread out like the width of your mat or whatever feels comfortable to you. And you can reach the forehead towards the floor, reach the hips towards the heels. They don't have to touch, just reaching in that direction. And the arms can be stretched out in front of you or stretched back towards the heels, whichever feels better for you. Just focusing on the breath. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose or the mouth, and just noticing how the breath moves through the body. Take a good inhale on the exhale. Let's walk the hands towards the right side of the body. On the inhale, we'll walk the hands back to center. Another good inhale here. On the exhale, we'll walk the hands towards the left side of the body. And let's inhale, come back to center. Inhale, exhale, and let's come to a seated position. So I forgot to mention in the intro, Cancer is also associated with the chest, the breast, and the stomach in medical astrology. Let me see if I missed anything. Yeah, so chest, breast, and stomach. So some of the poses that we're going to be doing today are going to focus on those areas of the body. So we're going to do boat pose, which is great for the core and the stomach. So we'll bring the hands underneath the thighs. We start with the feet on the mat, sitting nice and tall, shoulders away from the ears, and sort of leaning back. Imagine that you're sitting in a triangular chair here. And eventually maybe beginning to bring the feet to a hover, using the core to maintain stability, hugging all the muscles around the lower spine. You can keep it here, or maybe practice bringing the hands away from the thighs. If you need a little bit more of a challenge, you can bring the legs up so that they're parallel to the floor. Again, practicing bringing the hands away from the thighs. or maybe even straightening the legs out fully, keeping your gaze on the toes. And then we'll hug the knees into the chest. Okay. So another little challenge here, if you want to try it, if you're up for it, we're going to come into boat pose. We'll bring the hands away from the thighs. Take a nice inhale, and on the exhale, we're going to lower the heels and the shoulders to a hover above the mat. And inhale, we'll bring it back up. And exhale, bring it back down to a hover. Inhale, bring it back up. Exhale to a hover. Inhale, we'll bring it back up. Exhale, down to a hover. Inhale, bring it back up. We'll bring the soles of the feet to the mat. And we'll bring the hands behind the hips with the fingertips pointing towards the glutes. And we want the feet to be about hip width apart. The hands should be about shoulder width apart. We're gonna want the hands to be pretty much directly under the shoulders when we come up. We're gonna come into reverse tabletop, which is also known as crab pose. So on the inhale, we're gonna lift the hips, making a tabletop with the belly. You can turn the gaze towards the ceiling if that feels good to you. Lifting up the hips, don't let them sag. Another good inhale, and on the exhale, we'll lower the hips down to the mat. All right, so we're gonna swivel around. We're gonna bring it into tabletop, but on the hands and the knees this time. So the wrists are gonna come under the shoulders, the knees under the hips, fingers spread wide. Exhale, we'll curl on the toes. Inhale, lift the hips. Exhale, press the hips back, coming into downward facing dog. We'll inhale, taking a gaze between the hands, and exhale, stepping the feet between the hands, coming to a forward fold, bending the knees as much as you need to bring the abdomen on top of the thighs. Another protective pose, protecting all the vulnerable organs. Inhaling, coming halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, let's come all the way up to standing. Exhaling, bringing the hands to heart center, coming into Tadasana, mountain pose. So let's take a step back with the left foot, coming into, we're getting set up for triangle pose. So we're gonna have the left toes pointing straight forward, the right toes pointing towards the front edge of your mat, and the heels are in line with each other, shoulders stacked over the hips. So you're facing the same direction as your left toes, okay? The long edge of your mat. We're gonna inhale, bring the arms up to shoulder height, and then on the exhale, we're gonna shift the torso towards the direction that the right toes are pointing. Inhale, lengthen, and exhale, bring it into your triangle. Maybe noticing the obliques here. And then we'll inhale, bringing it back up to standing. Okay, so let's try half moon pose. I'm gonna scooch back a little bit here. If you have a block, that's a good thing to have. I'm gonna go get one. So if you don't have a block, you could try this using a book or a chair or whatever works, or you just can try doing it without the block. That's another option. So we're gonna have our feet in that same stance that we did for triangle. We're gonna bring our arms up to shoulder height, and this time when we shift, we're gonna bend that front knee, and we're gonna bring the right hand to the block, lifting the left leg out straight, pressing through that left heel. The fingertips on the right hand are pointing the same direction as the toes on that right foot. And we'll bring the left arm alongside the body to start out with. And then maybe try peeling that left hand up. Noticing all the energy lines in the body, inhaling into that right leg, exhaling, feeling that energy shoot out through the extended leg and arms. And inhale, bring it back up to our beginning stance. So let's try that little routine on the other side. So we're gonna do triangle on the other side. Okay, so now this time the right toes are pointing straight forward. The left toes are pointing towards the front edge of your mat. Bring the arms up to shoulder height. Exhale, we'll shift the torso. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bring it into your triangle. Notice the obliques. You can have the gaze turned toward the floor for more grounding and balance. You can have the gaze halfway up, or you can turn the gaze up towards the lifted hand for more of a balance challenge and to get more energy. And inhale, we'll bring it back up. Okay, let's get our block and practice half moon. So we're gonna start out the same way. I like to have the block kind of waiting there for me, or sometimes I'll actually have the block in my hand when I come down like this. So you can try it out however you want. You can try the block in different ways too. You can put it like this or like this. You can also bring the fingertips down. But I like to have the block at its highest setting because I feel like I get a straighter line in the body, and it kind of, I feel like the energy channels are more open that way for me. Okay, so we're gonna inhale, bring the arms up to shoulder height, exhale. As we start to shift, we're bending this front leg, bringing the left hand down to the block, lifting the right leg up off the mat, flexing the right foot, then practicing maybe bringing the gaze straight forward. Maybe bringing that top arm up. Woo! And then come back out of it, coming back into that beginning stance for triangle. All right. Woo, okay, let's do a little bit of goddess pose. So I thought we'd do goddess pose because it actually reminds me of a crab. And I think I've heard it called crab pose before. I think Cosmic Kids Yoga, she calls this crab pose, which is, if you want to do yoga with your kids, that's a great YouTube channel to check out. You should definitely check it out. So here we are, goddess pose, bending the thighs, the knees are pointing the same direction as the toes, squeezing the shoulder blades together, bringing the arms into cactus arms or crab claws. You can practice kind of walking side to side like a crab. All right, cool. So let's come back to the front of the mat. Coming into Tadasana, mountain pose. Inhale, lengthen the spine. We'll circle, sweep the arms up overhead, and on the exhale, forward fold. Inhaling, coming halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. Let's step back into plank. And then we're gonna drop the knees and walk the hands in so that they come underneath the rib cage when we're in modified plank. The wrists are about shoulder width apart. And then on the exhale, we're gonna bring it into a chaturanga push-up. And inhale, push it up. Let's do 2 more of these. And 1 more. Oh boy, and then we'll bring it into child's pose. Okay, so next we're gonna do more of the American style push-up, I guess is what you'd call it. So you just wanna kind of measure your hands out so that when you come down, you want the elbows to make a 90-degree bend, but for the American style, the arms are coming straight out the sides of the body. Okay, so let's do 3 of these. 1, 2, really getting into the chest. 3. That's why I like to do those American style push-ups. I feel like they really get into some of those muscles in the chest that the chaturangas don't get, and vice versa, so it's good to do both of them. Oh, I wanted to do pigeon pose. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So we're gonna come into our downward facing dog. And on the inhale, we'll lift the right leg straight up behind. Exhale, hug that knee in towards the chest and bring it into your pigeon. So you can have the shin directly under the thigh, or you can shift the leg out at a little bit of an angle, or maybe bring the shin to be parallel to that front edge of the mat. And then if you find that this hip is lifted up off the mat and you have a block, you can put a block underneath there or a folded blanket. That will work as well. And then check the back ankle. I want to make sure it's pointing straight up towards the ceiling. And on the exhale, you can bring it down to the forearms. Or maybe bring the head down to the mat, bring the elbows away from the ears, relax the shoulders. And then we'll inhale, back up. We're gonna curl in the toes on the back foot and pressing through the hands, gently, carefully, slowly lift the hips and slide the right foot back to meet the left in plank. And then we're gonna slide that left leg forward to do the same thing on the other side. Although it may not look exactly the same on each side, especially if you've had an injury, you may notice that one side's different than the other, and that's okay. Just give your body what it needs. So if it needs a deeper stretch on one side or more strengthening on the other, be sure to give it what it needs on each side. On the exhale, maybe bringing it down to the forearms. Or maybe bringing the head down to the mat, bringing the elbows away from the ears. And on the inhale, we're going to press up onto the hands. Let's rotate the hips and slide the right foot up, and then we'll come into a comfortable seated position. Inhale, bringing the arms up overhead. Exhale, taking the hands to heart center. There's no one path to happiness. The path itself is happiness. I thank you all for joining me today while our paths crossed. Thanks for being here for our Cancer season yoga practice. Hope to see you again soon. Namaste.